One of the biggest things that I put some of my own self-worth into is my uniqueness. I take pride in being different. No doubt do I think I could make a great course. I could help a lot of people. Like, I don't necessarily have anything against courses.
I want to hear like what is Matt's like why
You know, my why is not sexy at all, at least for why I got started.
to eventually come to his conclusion, which was there is no God. Obviously, my conclusion is that there is, and my purpose here is to serve him.
And I'm really like starting to lean towards there might actually be a God, which is crazy for me to say.
Right? Like I felt like I did this with my bare hands in a computer. This super strong calling to go do the right thing and face this massive personal problem I had in my life. You believe, you still doubt, and you wrestle with things, but you still believe.
The sixth one was called Estate AI. We went from 0 to basically 300. Well, we went from like 15K a month to $292,000 a month.
Dude, Matt, thanks so much for coming on, bro. I think you're actually one of the first guests that we've had on here. I do a lot of like client interviews, but I don't think I've had just like, a guest come on. But dude, super honored that you'd be the first one to come on. So glad to have you, dude. All the way from North Carolina, right?
Heck yeah, bro. Repping the 704, man. 704,
yeah,
stand
dude.
up.
Dude, we come from similar worlds as marketers, but also completely different worlds at the same time. Because you're preaching all the done for you, and I'm preaching all the done with you stuff. So I think this will be like a fun conversation, almost like a little bit of a debate, almost like between the done for you and the done with you.
Let's go. Bring it. I'm the Ben Shapiro of this business shit, bro. So I'm playing.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because basically the people that are watching, they know that I probably built an agency in the past. They've probably seen your content. I think you've had a few videos on YouTube, especially go viral recently. Especially the one I think was like how I built 4 agencies. And so obviously I went from agency to coaching, and I was like, well, this agency stuff is too hard. I don't like this done for you, the service delivery. It's too hard. But you have managed to build like successful agency after successful agency, and you just keep doing it. So, dude, my first question is like, you have this audience now. Why have you stayed away from like the coaching side? It's probably like a common question you get. It's like, Matt, why don't you have a program, bro? Yeah.
It's a really good first question, man. I think one of the biggest things that I put some of my own self-worth into is my uniqueness. And I take pride in being different. And so for me, if I just peddled another course like every single other guru, no doubt do I think I could make a great course. I could help a lot of people. Like, I don't necessarily have anything against courses, and I probably will make one, but it will be free. And I don't want to make my money from selling a course. I just don't. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not for me. I'm not against selling my audience anything. Like, if I can figure out a way to genuinely help my audience, software, portfolio, whatever it's going to be, like, I'll do it. I'm not against it. I just don't want it to be a course. So, yeah, that's kind of my thought process on it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that. And I like the, a lot of people, their immediate thought, like a lot of people get into marketing knowing eventually, dude, I want to sell courses one day. But it's good that, it's good to have a different perspective come from somebody else. Dude, before we jump into all like the cool stuff about what you've done, I want to hear like, what is Matt's like why? Like, what is the reason that like you feel like you've built these businesses to begin with? Obviously it's a big question and maybe a loaded question, but what is like sort of the reason that you feel like you started, and then the reason that you obviously keep going? Because you probably have, more money than most people are going to make, in the next 10, 20 years. So what is like the reason you keep doing it?
My why is not sexy at all, at least for why I got started. Some people do things out of inspiration. Other people do things out of desperation. I very much operated out of desperation when I first started. I was in a very dark place. I had basically given up on life. I was about as hopeless as you could imagine a person to be, a young man to be. And when I discovered online entrepreneurship, I thought like it's this or nothing. Like, this is the only way this is the only way out. Either I figure this out or I'm done. That's how I viewed it. And that's why I worked so damn hard. So when so many people tell me like, hey, I've been doing this for 6 months, 12 months. I'm thinking about giving up. I'm like, dude, imagine if your life was on the line. How would you show up every day? How would you work every day if you literally had your life on the line? If you had 12 months to make 10K a month or you were dead, would you get to 10K a month? Yeah, you would, because you would put away all the bullshit. You would become obsessed over one thing, living, which would require you being obsessed over one thing, making 10K a month. So that's how I viewed it. And that's why I think I was able to be successful in the beginning, is because there was no other option. It felt like it was do or die, literally. Now my why, it's much tougher because I'm not doing things for survival anymore. It's
Yeah.
like when primitive beings master their survival, it's like, well, now we get to ask the question, what's the meaning of life? And so I'm going down that whole rabbit hole. I'm having a ton of existential crises. Trying to find God. And if God is there, if I can really build a relationship with God, which I'm praying that I can, and that He will just like be there for me and I can find Him, then my mission becomes to serve Him if I make that connection. If I don't find God, or for whatever reason, like that doesn't happen, then I have no idea.
Dude,
But it's not pretty.
I think that's super powerful. I think Hormozy talks about this too, about how he had this massive life crisis that he felt like he couldn't do anything else until he figured out, like, is there a God or not? Because if there is, then this has to become my mission. This has to become like
He
my
talked
purpose.
about that?
Yeah, he talked about it on
Hormozy
Graham
talked about
Stephan's
that?
podcast. Yeah, Graham Stephan's
Wow.
podcast, his first one. He talked about how he basically went through and did like so much research um, to eventually come to his conclusion, which was there is no God. And obviously we've all done
Wow.
different research, and people have come to completely different conclusions, right? Like obviously my conclusion is that there is, and my purpose here is to serve Him. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's
That's
like,
so
you know,
interesting. I
there's
gotta watch
there's
that podcast.
yeah, it's interesting that there's geniuses on both sides that both come to completely different conclusions. Like you would think that
Yeah.
like okay, if they're all geniuses, they would come to the same conclusion, right?
Right.
Um,
It's
do you
such a
mind me
good point
asking?
if I can
Obviously,
touch
we
on
can.
that.
Yeah, I was
Sorry
gonna
if I'm
say, do you mind me
interrupting.
asking?
It's like it's cutting back a little bit. Damn Riverside, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if you don't want to go deeper on that.
Ask anything, bro.
It might be touchy, but I think, dude, I think this is super powerful for anybody watching.
I
And
agree.
so I want to go a little bit deeper. Is like, what has that journey been like for you? What do you feel like? Um, Most people don't have the perspective of even having an open ear towards like if there is a God, I'm all in. But
Yeah.
if there's not, I want to find out.
Yeah.
What's allowed you to have this open perspective on like if there is, by all means, I'm there.
That's a great question, man. If I could touch on one thing you mentioned, which is these geniuses on both sides, and as somebody who's been going deep into apologetics and atheism versus Christianity in a logical debate, right? Not what do you think, but like what does evidence show? There is
Yep.
evidence on both sides that you can lean towards, but there is definitely evidence for Jesus. There's evidence for some sort of creator. There's the cosmological argument. There's the historical argument. There's all these actual arguments from scientists, believe it or not. Like Albert Einstein
Yeah.
believed in God. He believed
Yeah.
in a pantheistic God, which is the universe's God, but he believed in God. He's much more intelligent than me, you, Hermosi combined, probably.
Yeah.
So there's these geniuses on both sides, and I read a Blaise Pascal quote the other day that just stuck with me, dude, and I want to share it because you made me think of it. He said, "There is enough light for those who want to see it, but there is also enough darkness for those who have a contrary disposition." So basically, you can choose. If you want to see the light, you can choose. If you have a contrary disposition, as Pascal says, you'll see the darkness. And I've found this out as I'm going through these studies. I cannot get definitive proof that God isn't real, and I can't get definitive proof that He is. And so I feel like I'm always being left to choose. Like I can choose He is, or I can choose He's not. I can choose to follow Him, or I can choose to not follow Him. So it's like it's going to be up to me at the end of the day. And that to me is a perfect expression of free will. Because God has to make it that way if we truly has free will. If we truly have free will, he has to make it our choice. And I feel like He's done exactly that. If He's out there, He's constructed it perfectly.
Yeah,
So
dude.
to answer your question, what has led me? I mean, as I mentioned, I was really, really hopeless as a young man. Like I was basically suicidal for 3 years, and like I had no self-esteem. I was in a really dark place. I hated waking up every day. and I prayed every day. I didn't believe in God. My family never went to church. Um, but I just prayed for some reason because I just felt like maybe there's something. And a few months ago, I denounced God at our team retreat because my sales manager used to be a Christian, or used to be, I'm sorry, a Mormon and a missionary, and he knows the Bible super well, he knows religion super well, and he says, oh, it's all a scam. And in 4 minutes of talking to him, he convinced me why God's not real. And 6, 7 years of just praying desperately, but having no actual understanding or root in my faith, this guy proved to me, in my opinion, right at that moment, I felt like he had proved to me why God's not real. And so I gave up on all of it. And then a couple days later, I come home, I visit my roommate who was an atheist, and he starts telling me this crazy miracle he experienced at a church and why he's starting to believe in God because he just couldn't explain it. Then him and his sister say a prayer for me, asking God to reveal himself to me. And then I start having all these weird things happen to me, dude. It was like thing after thing after thing, back to back to back, and it was all related to God. It was related to like Bible verse. Just like I'll save you the story because it's a long story, but like things started happening to me that I couldn't explain, and so I started seeking, and I've just been on that journey ever since. I started going to church. I started reading the Bible. I started studying apologetics and watching debates and like trying to learn like what do I actually believe. And I'm really like starting to lean towards there might actually be a God, which is crazy for me to say because
Yeah.
more specifically, Jesus might actually be God, which is crazier for me to say because I've never ever believed that in my life. I always denounced that. I was always like, dude, don't be ridiculous. Like, but that's what I'm leaning towards. So it's been quite a journey. I'm seeing how transformational God can be to somebody, and I'm realizing how important He is for the world. And I'm realizing how much darkness there is in the world, and that the only thing, like, darkness is there independent of light, right? Darkness is really just there not being light. And that's what I feel like the world is going into. And so the only thing that can change that is light coming into the world. And um, that's Jesus and his disciples, right? So I'm like, I can see how important it is for this world to become a God-fearing world. Whether or not I believe, I can see the value in it. So
Dude,
that's been my journey, man. And yeah, yeah,
dude,
it's been
God
a
changed my life, bro.
I would love to hear
Um,
how, man.
dude, yeah, I'd love. I can go into it if you want me to. And dude, just after this first 5 minutes, we got to hang out in person. Like you got,
100%.
we got to fly out somehow. Um,
100%.
but dude, and I'm forgive me if I start tearing up. I'm an emotional person, but
I feel you.
um, I
I almost
I
did
got
too, bro. I wasn't planning on it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
frick.
dude. I built the agency pretty much without ever talking to God, without, you know, asking him or without him leading me, right? Like I felt like I did this with my bare hands in a computer, right? Like I built this agency. This was my doing. This is my work. Um, and I was like, I don't really need, you know, God's help. The difference with me that I actually grew up in the church though.
Mm,
My parents went to church. My fiance is has a really deep relationship with God. Um, and so for me, like I grew up around it, but I was never opposed to it. And I always called myself a Christian, but I never really felt anything. Like I never was like, I have a deep understanding of like how my relationship with God, um, you know, works actually in my life on a day-to-day basis. I never had like a deep understanding of that. Um, and it wasn't until I built the agency up and I'm now at a point where I'm thinking about launching a coaching offer. And I just signed a mortgage on a house and like I've got you know, 10,000 bucks in the bank account. I'm struggling financially. I'm struggling emotionally. I'm struggling, you know, I'm not going to the gym as much. I'm maybe not like, you know, as lost and broken as some people are, but I'm definitely lost and broken. Um, I put all of my self esteem into a Stripe dashboard for so long that like I, you know, once that went down, I had nothing. I had nothing to lean on. Right? Like growing up, for me, it was basketball. I could put all my energy and effort into basketball. I could put my self esteem into how good am I at basketball. Then I just transferred that and I put it all into business. However good my business is doing is however good I'm doing as a person. Um, and so it wasn't until I actually figured out, okay, I need something besides basketball and Stripe to be a rock for me, like something to actually have that no matter what, no matter business is going poor, I'm out of shape, my wife leaves me, does not matter what happens, I have something for the rest of my life that is just like an absolute rock. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to be God, I don't know what it's going to be, but I need something. And so like the moment for me was like I've in terms of like our morals and sins, like I messed up pretty badly, like in my life. And
Hmm.
so I'm in the car, and I'm like I have this thing that I sort of like did that, in my opinion, was just like my life's over at this point. On my mind, I'm in the car, I'm driving, and I'm just like, dude, I just start bawling my eyes out and like screaming in the car. And I've never talked about this before to anybody, so this is fun to talk about. And dude, I just felt him like there was no words spoken in my head. There was nothing like tangible I could tell you of like this is what he said to me. But it was just like this super strong calling to go do the right thing and face this massive personal problem I had in my life, and like go talk to the person that I had done wrong. And I was like, I think that was God. Like I think like I don't know what it was telling me to go do this thing, but I think it was God. Um, and so I went, I did it. And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Is like just faced all of the trauma, all of the things that I had like done wrong in my life. Like just face them and be like, I'm getting rid of this old way and moving towards a new way. And I need God to lean on as my rock. And so for me, it wasn't actually the logical side. I didn't go to the logical side first, which for me, I'm a very logical person like you. I'm like, I want it to make sense. I need the facts and the evidence to line up. For me, it was like the feeling and the emotion and the spirituality of it before the facts actually came. So anyways, just thought I'd share a little bit of that with you,
Wow.
um, about
That's
my a little bit of
powerful,
my
man.
journey. So, and that
I
was like 8
appreciate
months
you.
ago, dude. Yeah.
Wow. Same, bro. Almost literally this exact same time. Like for me, it was the first 2 weeks of February, so 8 months ago. Um,
Yeah, dude.
that's that's so powerful, man. I appreciate you sharing that. And man, it's I've heard so many people say similar things. That
Yeah.
feeling, that moment of desperation, and then something happened, and like they just can't explain it. Can't explain it.
Yeah, dude.
And I felt those feelings too before I actually started looking. It was before even I denounced God. It was like I was struggling with sin. I was struggling with pornography, which if you watch my channel, you know how much I despise that crap. But I struggle with it. That's why I hate it so much, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody hates cocaine as much as the cocaine addict. Um, and so I just like had like given in and watched some crap on my phone, and then like I was just feeling so bad, and then I put on some worship music. I go to take a shower and I put on some worship music, and I like wasn't praying to Jesus. I didn't believe in Jesus, so I wasn't listening to his music that much. I wasn't looking for him at all, but I just like had a couple songs that I would listen to, and I'm like shuffling them, and this one song comes on, and it was so weird, bro. But it was like when the song came on. I hadn't cried in like a year and a half because I had 9 concussions in a year. Different story for a different time, but I had a lot of head injuries and like messed up my head. I couldn't feel emotion. It was hard for me to get excited. It was hard for me to feel pleasure. It was hard for me to feel anxious. It was hard for me like I just felt nothing. I couldn't cry. I couldn't feel sad. I couldn't feel happy. I was just like kind of this numb zombie. And this song comes on. I'm feeling terrible about myself for giving into sin. And then I just start bawling my eyes out, bro. Like I just start bawling my eyes out. Every part, like for a minute straight. It was like nothing I've ever experienced before. I just like cried every tear I had, bro. Just like out of me. And think I got like chills, and I was just like, look, what is going on? It just felt so weird, and I had no idea what it was. I didn't even really necessarily think it was God. I didn't know. But as I look back, I think I was surrendering. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to surrender everything and say like I'm nothing without something. And so that feeling, I know to some extent what you're talking about. It sounds like it was a different feeling for you, but it's something that I think if people seek, they will find something like that in some way. Um, so I know what you're talking about as far as that feeling goes. Have you felt that since you felt it the first time?
Yeah, I think, and actually, whenever I work with clients, like in a coaching relationship, I actually walk them through these sort of like all your business problems are actually personal problems.
Yeah.
Um, and a big part of that oftentimes is like faith, and obviously that's not for everybody. Like I don't push faith onto all my clients, right? They're really there to
Yeah.
make more money. But right, it's a big part of business
Deeper
problems
than
is that,
that,
yeah, is
yeah,
that they are
deeper than
personal
that,
problems.
they're there to find themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and so, sorry, what was your like original question? Was it just like, have you felt
Have
that?
you felt that since then? And I know we're going way off of business, but I feel like this is actually what is better to talk about, to be honest. So I hope
Yeah.
it's cool. But have you felt that since then? That feeling, that presence, that like I feel like that was God. Have you felt that since then?
Yeah, dude, I think it's really, really hard once you feel that presence to not like dig deeper, just like you are
Yeah.
like now, is like to dig deeper and to figure out like what is this. Um, and I haven't once I really faced like the massive problems that I had, um, like once you deal with those huge problems, obviously they never go away, right? It's always a part of your past. Um, but after that, like huge, weeks of crying, weeks of trying to figure out what am I going to do about this, and then eventually, like, all right, I'm going to face it head on. I'm going to deal with it. Then you deal with it. Then it's hard, and it's hard to deal with. After all of that, there's no more massive problems, right? There's no more these massive things that I'm dealing with. It's more so like on a day to day basis, how do I just become more and more like Jesus, which is like
Mm,
hard to do, right?
yeah.
And so then it's just becoming it's just learning like who is the person of Jesus, how can I become more like them, learning more like I didn't come at it from a logical perspective, so I don't know. Probably I maybe have less knowledge than you about about a lot of the stuff, right? Like I'm still getting through all the gospels, right? I'm still reading the word, and still like, dude, I'm just learning so much every day. And so
Mm,
I haven't felt like that much emotion since then, but I definitely feel, um, I have this different perspective now, than I had before. My perspective before was just my own perspective, thinking through my own lens, and obviously we all have like a set of morals that we're born with, that we think are just naturally humans. Um, but I do think, obviously they come from being created by God. And so now it's just learning about like there's a level beyond that. There's a new perspective that I now have, which is looking through the lens of Jesus, or at least trying to look through the lens of Jesus and seeing things in a completely different way and having an actual anchor to like lean back on. Like someone
yeah.
someone like that's a rock in my life that's stable, that's steady, that's always there, and that I can always rely on. Which is like
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, you think you're self-made, really hard to do. Like so hard to do. It's so hard to like trust somebody else as in God, and just be like, all right, I'm putting this is up to you, right? Because like we're like there's faith and there's works, and as entrepreneurs we're all works, right? We want to do everything. We want
Yeah.
to be the person to like take action and take control, and like we manifest our own destiny. um
Right.
Whereas like we do, but at the same time it's God's. So
Right.
I would
Yeah,
say I
you have to
haven't felt.
surrender yourself.
Yeah, which sounded like you did in the shower, or wherever it was that one day you listened to music.
Right.
Um,
So
yeah, it's
you've
hard to
gone
do.
deeper, and have you felt any presence or experience, or has it just been like more of like a intangible, um, just shift that you've made in your life and the way you view life?
Yeah, I think it's not miracles. It's not like a day to day like, holy shit, I've never seen this stuff happen before. It's more of just like, um, I can see the way he works now in a way I didn't before. I can see the
Yeah.
things that he does that when people think of God moving, they might think, okay, he's going to turn my water into literal wine, right? Like he's going to make the water in my house turn to wine, or like I'm going to, you know, some sort of miracle is going to happen in my life. Like all of a sudden, my wife's going to get pregnant without me, without making her pregnant. Like there's all these things that like, okay, that's not what the
Let's
way that
hope
we
that doesn't
experience.
happen.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen. Because if I didn't do it, then. But anyways, we can. But um, I think I experienced him in ways that like I didn't know before. I didn't realize before, where it's like, if I have these client relationship problems, clients are leaving, or I'm having just like problems in business, or maybe I'm having problems with fitness, and I'm like, dude, I'm self conscious about my body. I feel like I'm not in a place where I want to be at. You can see him make ways for things that you didn't know were possible before.
Mm,
And you can kind of see him move in your business, in your life. But you kind of have to accept that. Like you have to, there's the believing, but there's also the receiving, right? Even if
mm,
you believe, but you don't receive, then you're not going to see it work in your life.
yeah.
And so I'm still in the process of receiving. Like I'm still kind of holding on to the Grayson's, the self-made man a little bit, but I'm trying to fully receive. But, um,
Yeah.
anyways, dude, what do you feel like for you is like the next step in your faith journey? Like, what do you feel like you're at right now? Like, where are you moving towards?
It's tough, man. It's exactly what you make a beautiful point as far as like pride getting in the way, right? Pride is a original sin. It's the devil, right? And as
Yep.
entrepreneurs, like that's what makes most of us so successful. Is that we have so much pride. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why I think it's so hard for these really genius entrepreneurs to find God. And I think
Yeah.
that's why it's been so hard for me. Pride, it's pride, man. Like it just gets in the way. And so I think the one of the biggest things I'm working on and praying for is to try to lower my pride, try to release my pride, um, and to try to actually like follow God. And I'm at the point, dude, where like I've been searching for a minute now, you know. And so like if I really feel like if I really come to that conclusion, like I'm ready to dedicate everything to it. Because if God's real, like it's everything. Probably like Hermosi was talking about on the iced coffee hour. Like that's exactly how I think about it. If Jesus was God, he died for our sins and our lives are intentionally created, then one thing matters, and that's living for the creator. That's living for the God. That's it. But if God isn't real, nothing matters.
Yeah.
We're all just a random spur of cells and material and it doesn't really matter. We're all going to go to the same exact place. We came from the ground, we'll go back into the ground, and that's it. There's no point. We can make our lives as great as possible, but if there's no God, it doesn't matter because you don't get to take any of it with you. So I go very nihilistic if there's no God. And so what I'm trying to do now is, yeah, just continue to seek, study the Word, get deep into the Word, build a good group of people that strengthen my faith. Because one of the worst things for a new believer is to be around non-believers, and nobody in my family believes. I love them to death, and but no, none of them believe, and so it's like that's
Yeah.
tough.
What are you doing?
That's
What
really
are you
tough,
doing next week, bro?
dude. What's next week? The 12th?
Yeah.
Nothing.
What are you doing next week?
Nothing.
Yeah, you should come out to Arizona, bro. We're hosting a 3-day event. You should come.
Mm. Bro, let's talk about it because
Scottsdale, Arizona. We'll talk about it
I would
after the
love to go
pod.
back to Scottsdale, dude. I love Scottsdale. I saw it on your story, so I would definitely be interested. And I actually might be going there soon. So yeah, let's talk about it. But
Let's talk about it after the pod.
yeah,
Um,
man. Yeah, but
dude, I
that's where
think
I'm at with the faith stuff and all that.
yeah. And I'll say one last thing is that I think there's never a point, at least for me, where I stop like doubting, which it might be quote unquote bad to say, but it's like even once you decide to go down that journey of like, okay, God is the creator. Like if the creator is real, I'm going all in on this. Then that has to become my life
Mm,
now. And in reality, that's what it seems like it would be. Is like, all right, this is what my life is now. But it's really hard to just go all in without any doubt. Like especially off the bat, it's like it's pretty much a lifelong wrestling and battle. Especially as you start to learn more. it gets like it
Yeah.
sometimes even gets harder, right? Because you're like, well, I didn't know this stuff, or like I didn't realize this was a part of being a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so like it almost even can get harder down the line too. So I think it's never like a, all right, I'm all in or I'm all out. It's like there's like this great in between space where you believe, you still doubt, and you wrestle with things, but you still believe. Um,
Yeah.
but anyways, dude, let's talk a little bit about business too.
Let's do it.
We can let's do it, dude. Um, so you've built obviously a bunch of successful agencies. I think maybe do you tell me a little about the model that you have right now? Do you partner with people? Is it Hormozy style? Are you owning a quarter of these companies, half these companies? Are you
Yeah,
owning all of
so
them? I have no idea.
yeah, good question. So we built six SMMAs in a row to prove it's not luck. If you've seen the video,
Yeah.
shout out to you. Um, we built six agencies. The sixth one was called Estate AI. We went from zero to basically 300. Well, we went from like 15K a month to $292,000 a month. We say 0 to 300 just because it sounds better. But we went
Sexier.
from
Yeah.
15 to 292 in 1 year. Um, and then yeah, we were just like, okay, cool. Like, what do we do now, and where do we take this? And I really wasn't planning on doing anything. I was just kind of chilling, and then I went to an event in Missouri, started meeting some agency owner guys, started talking to them, and then they started hitting me up and like, yo, like, can we partner with you? Like, what, or can we get you as a mentor? What would it take? And I was like, guys, I don't do coaching. It's not my play. Like, I'm good. And they were like following up with me, like, yo, what do we have to do? So I was like, all right, man, fine. Like there's demand, so let's bring some supply. And so I partnered with one guy. We went from 25K a month to 170K a month in 5 months. Um, he's been crushing it. We're hoping he's going to hit 300 before the year is over. Then I partnered with Dylan Wilson a couple of days ago, and I think we're about to go crazy because we've just uh, Dylan's solid. His CEO's solid. We have a really good strategy. We picked a good market. We have a solid offer. I think we're about to really do something different in the space, and we're going to document the whole thing. So we're going to go from literally scratch, picking out niche, everything. Like we picked out niche live on a recorded call. We went through all the reasons why we chose that niche. We're going to go from that to hopefully 300K a month in under a year. Maybe even sell it for a multi seven figure exit and document the entire process. And it should be some of the most valuable content on the tubes. So that's where I'm
Yeah.
at right now. And I have started to wonder, like, man, should I scale this thing up? Because I can build, for whatever reason, I can build an SMMA. Like, a lot of
Yeah.
things I cannot do, but I can build an SMMA. And every time we do it, we get better at it. So maybe I just build these things up and sell them. I don't know. I also enjoy my free time right now, and I'm enjoying applying that time to God and trying to find Him. So I'm not getting too serious about it. I'm not trying to build some private equity company, but I'm not against the idea. I'm just kind of seeing what comes my way. So that's where
Sweet
I'm at
dude.
right now with it, man.
What
Yeah,
do you feel like? Do you feel like there's a magic cap with 300K a month, or do you feel like,
good
you know,
question.
why 300K? Why is that kind of like
Depends
the
on the niche. Yeah, it depends on the niche. It gets more complex at 300 because you start to have to really build a management team out. You start to get diminishing returns from paid advertising. Um, and on top of that, you just have to start creating more back end revenue. And that's really the toughest part about an agency is getting like consistent back end revenue. Um, so I think we're going to do that for the seventh agency. I think he's in a great market that's going to be able to really maybe get to 8 figures. Like it might be able to crush. We'll see. But 300K is just kind of like paid ads or email or whatever your channel is. It starts to get harder at that much volume. Now you have a much bigger team, a lot more overhead, a lot more complexity. You need middle management. And really at that point, it just becomes like, how do you innovate on marketing and maintain quality and avoid entropy in the culture? And that's the biggest thing we ran into at Estate AI. And honestly, like we did well, like great company, great culture, great team. Um, but we stopped being all in on like scaling this thing to 1 million a month. So we're working on some neat things over there now to still get the company there without us being as involved. But that's what kind of caused us to plateau at 300 the first time was just started to lose the buy-in. And then I
Yeah.
think there's some more tactical reasons as well that can make somebody stop at 300-ish.
Okay, cool. And then what is like, if you had to give me like the pitch, like if I was a partner company for you, what is the pitch on like what is the because obviously you have a process for this. What is
Yeah.
like the quick version of like how do you do this so consistently? Or is it just like the secret is there is no secret. It's the boring work and having a good offer, running paid ads. Is there like some secret sauce or
Um, yeah, there is some secret sauce to some extent, but like at the end of the day, it's like, dude, we just have like we know everything you need to do. We got to come up with the it's a lot of solid execution on boring things. We got to make a good offer. We got to choose the right market. We got to build great ads that stand out in the niche. We have to streamline onboardings and processes. We have to build a good client success team. We have to actually be able to get the
yeah.
client's results and have a good ad process. We need to recruit. Recruiting is one of the biggest things I spend my time on with the seventh agency. We just hit like 10 team members yesterday, so we went from like 4 people to 10 people in the last 2 weeks. So we're like hiring, 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 and I'm using all my social media, my network to just bring people in. So it's like a
Yeah.
lot of that stuff, and then I'm just working, specifically with the CEO to help them make the right decisions. Because at the end of the day, all this game is what decisions do you make on a daily basis? And so that's where
Yeah.
I spend most of my time with them.
What do you think what do you think happens to business side of Matt, um, if you were to go like all in on your faith? Like, let's say that you go down this journey.
Good question.
What do you think happens to that side? Do you think, because obviously there are Christians who have built massive companies. So it's not to say like, oh, now I go all in my faith. That's my journey, and I can't, be a billionaire anymore. What do you think
Yeah.
happens to you?
So, dude, I went to a prophetic church. It was the first time I went to church in on my
Ooh,
own accord ever. Um,
prophetic one and first one. That'd be good.
yeah, I mean, I'd been to church like for like Easter and stuff with like my family even, but like outside of that, we never went to church. So this was my first time going on my own accord, and um, I they gave me a prophetic word. I go in, I'm like, let me see what's up with this place, bro. Like, what's up with all this like prophetic? Like, bro, come on, what's going on here? I go in,
Yeah.
I sit down with them, and they say three things to me. They say, "We see you have a mind for business." Keep in mind, I look like this, and I'm 21 at the time. Like, I don't, I look like a freaking goober, bro. I look like
Yeah.
I don't know, like a burnt out frat guy. He says, "I see you have a mind for business. I see you have a mind for managing money, and we see you have a heart for teaching." And And then they said, and we see you're at a crossroads in your life. We had just, and like some people just say, oh, that's all kind of vague stuff. And like, I wouldn't disagree, but for a 22-year-old, like, who had just started teaching business on YouTube and was like, I got a comment a week before that stuck out to me. And it said, Matt, after watching all your videos, I think you're a teacher at heart. I screenshotted it. I screenshotted it because I was like, there's something here. Like, I think that's right. Then a week later, they give me this, oh, we see you're a teacher. And I was like, that's weird. Like, I am feeling called to teach. And so that really spoke to me. And so I say that because if I go all in on my faith, I don't necessarily think it means I need to give up business. I would. I mean, I would. I would give up everything, bro. Whatever. But I feel like one of the spiritual gifts to my understanding is like kingdom building or something like that. Maybe that's not a spiritual gift. Maybe that's just a kingdom. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. But kingdom building, and I realized like how much good can I do with the wealth I build? And I'm so
Hmm.
set up for that because I don't buy nice things. I don't. I walk around barefoot. I drive a 2009 Toyota Camry that's worth like 2,000 bucks. Has a crappy surfboard on the roof. Like, I don't. I'm not materialistic at all. And so I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this money? If God's real, there's the freaking answer. Like, you've been building all this money to serve the kingdom in some way. So I don't necessarily think I quit business, but I think I start actually going even harder because I've found a reason to actually play the game. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. Um, but it is tough, man, because in the game of business, you're surrounded like none of the people I work with are Christian. Like it's all day. I'm just like it's like things that separate me from Christ, and so that's tough for me. It's like, well, how am I gonna balance searching and being so far away at the same time? Does he not want me to do this? And I don't know, man. I'm curious your perspective on it because I don't have the answers, but that's how I'm thinking about it.
I think the funny thing is that you attract, uh, your vibe is your tribe, right? Like the type of person that you are and the type of content you put out. Um, from my perspective, it's like, dude, there's a ton of Christian business owners, and I think it's because I talk about it in a lot of my stuff, and so I'm
Yeah,
attracting a community of people that are all interested in that same stuff, right?
yeah,
Like and so I think once you open that door, um, you start talking about those things, you start living out that way. Um, I think a lot of doors open in terms of like a community of kingdom builders. Um,
mm,
right? 'Cause I think right now, like if you don't talk about it at all, then if it's not a part of your life, then I think it'd be hard to have a tribe of people that are all going in the same direction.
yeah,
Whereas like the community that I'm trying to build, I'm not trying to just say, hey, like this is for Christians only. In fact, um, I think like having people come in based off the principles, um, and sort of like Trojan horsing them, right? Where it's like, hey, like you come in like about this business and like this perspective on life, but turns out this isn't my perspective. This is actually someone else's. His name is Jesus.
mm,
Um, I think I think
mm.
that's like a great way to do it. But I do think when you start
I
opening the door
agree.
and you talk about these things, you build a community of people that are interested in the same things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's a great point, and that's how I do imagine doing it. Like I do want, again, if I continue like finding and like my faith grows, then I want to bring people to it. Um, that's I mean, go and make disciples of all the nations, right? Like that's kind of the goal. So I don't want to turn away those people who don't believe just because I do. Like I've that always turned me off from Christianity. I'll only hang out with other Christians. That always bothered me. So I don't want to go and become that. Um, Although now I can see why people might say that, being on like the other side of like, oh, I kind of get why that's the case. So yeah, I would love to somehow like, I guess my vision, man, that I've been thinking about lately is like, well, what if I got a great group of like talented, badass entrepreneurs and we found Christ together. And like now we
Yeah.
all serve the kingdom. And what if like I'm not just building these companies to build these companies, I'm not just building these entrepreneurs to build these entrepreneurs, but we're building God fearing, Christ loving entrepreneur badasses that can go and serve the world. And like, because entrepreneurs are the most influential people in the world are really politicians and entrepreneurs. And now I guess like creators too. But entrepreneurs and creators are now becoming almost the same thing. You and I are great examples. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking is like, man, how much good could I do if I worked with a really solid group of entrepreneurs that are going to go have way more impact than I can have on my own, and I just focus on impacting them. So
Yeah, dude.
that's how I'm thinking about it.
Dude, I can't even tell you how much I love that vision. Um,
I'm guessing it's kind of similar.
dude, yeah, 100%. I think the one thing that I think entrepreneurs are extremely lonely, and I think that's why we all value community,
Yeah,
um, especially within like any sort of programs or coaching programs. I think one of the biggest things. So why would someone stay in a coaching program longer than the initial 16-week program or their 4-month commitment is because
yeah,
of the community more than anything else.
mm,
And so I think like people are lonely, and that's why community is such a huge thing, right? There are communities that you pay $60,000 a year for, right? Just because people are lonely, so it's a $60,000 problem.
yeah,
Um, but dude, I wanna before we jump off here, this was awesome. I did not expect it to go this way, but I'm glad it did.
yeah.
What is sort of like not just business wise, but Matt's life wise? What's sort of like the 12-week, 12-month, and 12-year vision? If you had to give me like one sentence about each, doesn't have to be
Yeah,
business wise. It can just be life. But
12 week is take some time off. I want to do a 1 month sabbatical. Hopefully go to Bali. Um, take a month off. 12 months. Try to find God best I can. See what happens. 12. What was the next one? 10 years. 12 years.
12 years, yeah, 12 years.
12 years. Okay, 12, 12, 12. 12 years. Whew. It's gonna depend on what happens in the next 12 months, man.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm guessing people can find you on IG, Matt Shields, YouTube, Matt Shields. Pretty unique name, so you can probably just search him up, find him somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
make sure to put your stuff in the description. But dude, thanks
Love
so
it.
much for coming on, bro.
Thanks for having me, man. This was super fun. So glad we did it.